Good morning, O'Neill. I hope you're having a wonderful day today. It's a very special day, and that we're getting to celebrate today. And I get to be with you as well, reading more of our book, which is very fun and exciting. So let's get started. All right, we are on chapter 16. Ready? Okay. Here we go. Chapter 16. Joe. When Miss Frost comes back to the resource room, she's carrying a tray with 3 hamburgers on it, 1 for her and 2 for me. Did anything happen in class this morning, Joe, that I should know about? She asked, tearing open the package of ketchup with her teeth and carefully squeezing a squiggly red line on the top half of her bun. I'm already done with my first hamburger and about to start on the second. I should have asked for 3. Man, he's hungry. I spazzed out a little when Miss Beam asked me to read. I say, did you tell her about my APD? Miss Frost nods. I reach for a carton of chocolate milk and try to open the sprout, but the paper keeps ripping. Miss Frost takes it from me and uses her fingernail to pull open the milk. Then she hands it back. I was wondering if anything happened with Ravi in class this morning, she says. It's Ravi, I say. And Dylan tripped him right after he did some crazy looking math problem on the board. Is that what you mean? He seems to think that you were the one who tripped him. I shake my head. I guess maybe he's not as smart as he thinks he is, I say. After school gets out, my mom is sitting in the car waiting for me. We go through the same routine as the day before. She tries to convince me to let her give me a ride home, and I tell her I'd rather walk. I walk to school in the morning too. I don't get mad that often, but when I do, I always stay mad for a while. I have a couple of bucks in my pocket, so I stop at the mini mart on the corner and buy a snack. I had been planning to get a bagel and cream cheese, but instead I decide to buy a king-size bag of peanut M&Ms. Ever since I saw Ravi take that double blue one out of the bowl, it's been bugging me that I didn't find it first. I pay for M&Ms and rip open the pack. Out of 22, there are 5 blues, but no doubles. I eat them slowly, sucking off the layers, trying to make them last the whole way home. When I finally walk in the door, Mimi comes running. She rolls over on her back, and I give her a good belly scratch. Mom's out in the kitchen, and from the smell of things, I'm pretty sure she's making pork roast and scalloped potatoes. It's going to be hard to stay mad at her if she keeps this up. Joey? Mom calls. Is that you? Yeah, I call back. She comes out of the kitchen, drying her hands on a dish towel. Hungry? She asks. My head tells me to go upstairs, but my stomach tells me where there's pork roast and scalloped potatoes, there might be apple crisp too. I'm starving, I say. Dinner won't be ready for another hour, but I took the crisp out of the oven. You want some? I'm still mad at you, I tell her. I know, she says. I follow her out into the kitchen where she dishes up a big bowl of warm apple crisp. We made that the other day. Did you make one at home? Oh, it was so yummy. Ice cream? She asks. I nod, and she puts a scoop of vanilla on top of the crisp. Perfect. I take a bite and close my eyes, letting the taste explode in my mouth like fireworks. Are you ever going to forgive me? She asks. Eventually, I tell her. She gets busy washing lettuce. I'm glad she doesn't ask me about my day. I keep thinking about what Ravi said and the way he pointed his finger at me. Even Apple Crisp can't take the edge off that. More? Asks Mom. No thanks, I say, handing her empty bowl. I'm good. All right, we are on Wednesday. Chili. All right. Chapter 17. Ravi. When Amma comes to wake me up, she has red chilies and salt on her hands. Sit still, Ravi, she says. I'm going to take away the Drishiti, the curse of the evil eye. Even though I haven't said a word to her about how badly things have been going for me at Albert Einstein Elementary School, somehow my mother has figured it out. The Khan Drishti is what is causing your problems, Raja. I'm sure of it, she tells me. I tried to hide my feelings yesterday when I returned home from school. Amma and Parima picked me up at the bus stop, bombarding me with a million questions, as usual. Did you show your verdict math? Was Miss Beam impressed? Did she commit on how nice your notebooks look? Did you enjoy the vegetable biryani? Leave me alone, I begged them. That was my mistake. For the rest of the afternoon, Amma and Parima chased me around the house, offering me food and drink, hoping to pry some information out of me. What's wrong, Ravi? Amma kept asking. Has something happened? Parima even threatened to email Miss Beam if I didn't tell her what was bothering me. There was no way I could tell them that I had been laughed at, disrespected, tripped, ridiculed, and forced to eat my lunch in the resource room with the very person who tripped me. Amma would have been heartbroken, so I faked a stomachache and went to bed early. Amma clutches the salt and chilies tightly with both her palms and slowly circles them around me, 3 times clockwise, then runs downstairs and throws the potion on a hot skillet. There is a loud crackling sound, and the smell of burnt chilies fills the air. I knew it, I hear Parima cry. See how they crackle? Ayo, didn't I tell you things would be difficult for us in America? People are jealous. That is what it is, jealous of our Ravi and his superior intelligence. If only she knew what they really thought of me at school. I get dressed and go downstairs where Amma has made 2 soft idlis for my breakfast. Wait, first take this, says Parima, shoving a spoonful of pink medicine into my mouth. It tastes horrible, but it's my own fault for having faked a stomachache. Everything is going to be okay, Ravi, Ami says. I baked some naan kahatis. Those were the cookies that we had the other day, too. Did you try those? They were very different. I've never had ones like those before, but they were good. My favorite cookies. The flavor is off, sniffs Parima, tasting a crumb and wrinkling her nose. You put too much rose water in it, Roshni. Amma sighs. I can tell she is biting her tongue. Remember that idiom? She's not actually biting her tongue. She's just not saying something else to make the situation even worse. All right. You'll see, Ravi, she says as she carefully places the last crumb round cookie in the box. Miss Beam will be impressed. The naan-kahatis are for Miss Beam? I asked, surprised. I know how to win teachers over, Amma said confidently. Offer the cookies to her first thing this morning. You'll see how things improve after that. Appa comes in carrying his briefcase. Listen to your Amma, he tells me. Remember, she has the black tongue. What is that? Amma has a birthmark on her tongue. In India, a black spot on the tongue means you have magical powers. This may sound a little silly superstition, but believe me, when Amma says something is going to happen, it always does. All right, there's a lot of superstition going on so far in this chapter. superstition, like don't walk under a ladder, black cat around your path, or even, Friday the 13th kind of things. Even the evil eye, that means when like somebody, they say, put a curse on you or is talking bad about you or something like that. In Italian, it's something called cornut. I wonder what it is in your culture when people are talking bad about you or something. And there's superstitions. At 6:38, the bus will be arriving in 2 minutes. Amma pulls on her favorite blue sweater, picks up her sari pleats, hoists them just above her ankles, and tucks them in her waist. Slipping her bare feet into a pair of rubber sandals, she rushes towards the door, but Amma stops her. Let him go by himself, Roshni, he says. He's 10 years old. Paripa is sitting on the sofa, dripping his biscuits in his morning tea. Harima hands me my tiffin box and my jacket. Don't forget to tell Miss Beam the nankahatas are homemade. My mother calls after me. And remember to eat your lunch. I made a nice curry with okra and chickpeas. Raita. Let's see here. Oh no, okay. That sounds yummy. And a flask of buttermilk too. Good for your digestion. 2 boys from my class are sitting in the front row of seats on the bus. One of them is Keith Campbell, and the other is named Tim or Jim. I'm not sure which. They nod to me and I nod back. I wish Dylan Zamarine rode on my bus. Perimad and I used to ride together and crack jokes the whole way to school. I find a seat near the back of the bus and sit down, carefully balancing the box of cookies on my lap. All the way to school, I stare out the window, wondering if my mother can be right. Will the Khan Drishtanti, healing, and the homemade nankahatas help to turn things around for me? When we arrive at Albert Einstein Elementary School, I look up at the American flag flying on top of the silver pole. I think about my own flag with its blue spinning wheel and its center. Each of the 24 spokes represents a virtue. Miss Arun had a list of them written on her wall, and she made us memorize them in order. I think about number 2 on the list, courage. Number 13, righteousness. And number 14, justice. Be proud of who you are. I hear Parima's voice say in my head, remember where you came from. I take a deep breath, straighten my back, and step off the bus. Bigfoot is standing near the door when I reach room 506. I walk past him. I keep my eyes on his giant shoes. I will not allow him to pleasure the tripping me again. When I present Miss Beam with the cookies, she smiles. In fact, she beams. Hi! How sweet, she tells me. Amma's black tongue was right. Thanks to the nankahatas, I have won over Miss Beam. Even her eyebrows seem friendlier today. We begin our morning with silent reading. She tells the class, following that, you'll go to gym. Things are looking brighter for me already. All right, chapter 18, Joe. We are moving along. We're at page 99. We've almost read 100 pages so far. You guys are awesome. Joe. When I was a little kid, if I fell down and skinned my knee, my mom would kiss it to make it better. I thought it was magic, but I'm not a little kid, and I don't believe in magic anymore. I decide to let my mom drive me to school, but we don't talk. At least I don't. Dad won't be getting in until late tonight, she tells me. You won't see him till tomorrow morning. I'm not in any hurry. Not that I don't miss my dad when he's on the road. I do. Sometimes we watch sports together and act like guys, burping and scratching and stuff. But it's been a while since we did that. Mom still hasn't said anything, but I'm positive I'm right about the reason he's coming home early. I know the drill. She's going to make us have a family meeting. I'll sit there saying nothing. My dad will tell me to man up. And when it's finally over, nothing will have changed. Mom will still be the lunch monitor. Dylan Samarine will still be giving me a hard time about it. And fifth grade will still suck as much as it did before. Hey, Pud, not Puddy, Dylan says as I walk into room 506. He's standing by the door, like he's been waiting for me. Lucy Mulligan giggles, which pretty much guarantees that the dumb joke will be following me around for a while. The funny thing about Lucy is that she and I used to be friends. We went to the same nursery school when we were little, and sometimes after school we'd play together. She even had a sleepover at my house once when her mom and dad had to go out of town for a funeral. She wet the bed and cried. My mother put the dirty sheets in the washing machine, and Lucy made me promise that I wouldn't tell anybody at school about it. I never did. Dylan is about to say something else, but then his dark eyes slide to the left, and there's that evil sparkle I know so well. I turn around to see what he's looking at. Ravi has just arrived with his green backpack and iron blue jeans. For some reason, he's looking especially shrimpy today. His shoulders only come up to my belly button, which means I can actually look down and see the top of his head. He's wearing the whitest sneakers I've ever seen in my life, and he's holding a square metal box with flowers painted on it. What's in the box? Dylan asks him. Cookies, he says, for Miss Beam. I look at Ravi and his weird flat clothes holding his flowery little box of cookies and wonder if he realizes he's a zebra. Boys and girls, take your seats, Miss Beam calls from the front of the classroom. Ravi walks up to her and hands her the box. My mother has asked me to bring these to you, he says. They are Indian cookies. How sweet! Indian cookies. Ravi nods. Homemade, he says. When Ravi isn't looking, Dylan puts his finger down his throat and makes a gagging sound. Ugh. Lucy Mulligan giggles. Sometimes I wish they'd just run off together and get married and put all of us out of our misery. Tell your mother thank you for these cookies, Ravi, says Miss Beam. I'll be sure to enjoy one tonight at home after dinner. Ravi turns and starts walking back to his desk. He looks happy, but I notice he's staring at my feet. He probably thinks I'm going to try to trip him. I wonder if he thinks I'm the one who swiped his mechanical pencils, too. After she finishes taking roll call attendance, Miss Beam tells us to do silent reading until it's time to go to gym. I pull out my book and turn to the place where I left off reading last night. I've only got a few more chapters to go, and I want to know how the story turns out. Dylan asks if he can go get a drink of water, and I can tell he's up to something. Sure enough, on the way back, he tosses a folded up piece of paper on my desk. I open it up, and there's a drawing of a bunch of people. Almost everyone is wearing a t-shirt that says, I'm with stupid on it. And under that arrow pointing to the left, there are only two exceptions. One is a really tall boy wearing giant shoes that look like boats. I'm stupid, it says on his shirt. Next to him is a woman in a striped apron holding a dirty diaper with a bunch of flies buzzing around it. Her shirt says, I'm stupid's mommy. Another day off to a sucky start. That is horrible. Dylan is just tries to hurt people's feelings. But do you think Miss Beam will eat the cookies? How does Ravi know that she will? I'm wondering, is she really a nice teacher and will try to eat the cookies and see how they taste, or will she just fake it? I don't know. Me, you give me something, I'm probably going to eat it. All right, let's keep reading. We are on chapter 19, Ravi. My day is getting better by the minute. First, Miss Beam had liked the non Cahatis, and then she was impressed when she noticed how far I had read in ahead in Bud Not Buddy. Now it's time for gym class. I was junior school sports captain at Vida Madir last year, even though I was only in fourth grade. If American gym is anything like PE in India, my troubles will soon be over. I looked down at my clean white shoes. Das Sir, my PE teacher at Vida Madir, would be pleased. Every day before class, he lines us up and first checks our shoes. They must be pure white, he insists. Thanks to Amma and her polishing skills, mine are always as white as snow. Oh, when I was a kid, even now, I never wear white. I always get things dirty. I can't believe it. He's wearing white shoes. I never had white shoes. They're always dirty right away. Let's see what happens to her. Das Sir would sit in the shade of his favorite neem tree and tell us to start some drills. Stretching exercises, jumping jacks, and one round of running. I always finished first. Primad, a close second, and Ramaswamy, the poor sod, came dead last every time. He was slow, not only in reading, but at everything else as well, including running. Das Sir had no patience for him. Ramaswamy had such a big belly that he tried to touch his toes, he would bend his knees, and Das Sir would give him a whack with a neem twig, with a tree twig. Oh my goodness. We all laughed our heads off when he howled. After the drills, before we played cricket, Das Sir would send Ramaswamy off with the girls to play throw ball or tennikot or cuckoo. All right. Tennikot, I looked it up because I never heard of it before, is kind of like a game where you throw rings and you have to catch the ring. So that's tennikot. And coco is kind of like tag, but you like sit in a line and you have to like tag somebody and then sit where they were. It's almost like duck, duck, goose in a little bit, but in a straight line. So that was interesting. The gym teacher at Albert Einstein School is called Coach Victorine. He has a funny nose and no mustache, but he dresses exactly like Mr. Das. White t-shirt and black tracksuit bottoms. I am looking forward to impressing him and everyone else with my skills. Oh, the bell is my dog wanting to go out. Coach Victorine leads us out into a large grass field behind the school. He has a canvas bag containing several metal bats and some large yellow balls. I've never played American baseball, but I imagine it is a lot like cricket. I feel a bit nervous, but how hard it can be. I expect we will begin with some drills and running, but instead, Coach Victorine chooses Dylan and a girl named Jasleen to be captains and tells them to pick their teams. Do girls play too? I asked the boy standing next to me. He's the one who rides my bus, whose name is Tim or Jim. Yep, he says, playing against girls is going to be easy peasy. Ravi, that wasn't nice. Jaylene picks first. She chooses a girl named Amy. I wave at Dylan to get his attention, then point to myself. I was first batsman in Vida Madir. I call out, I want him to know I won't let him down if he picks me. He chooses a boy named Robert instead. I was sure he would pick me first, but I remind myself that Dylan doesn't know anything about my athletic abilities or that I was champion cricketer. It's Jasleen's turn to pick again. I'll take you, she says. At first, I think she was pointing at the girl standing in front of me, but instead she's picked me. I can't believe I'm going to play with my first game of American baseball on a team made of girls. This is all Miss Frost's fault. If she hadn't made me go to resource room yesterday, Dylan and I would have had lunch together. I would have told him about the Gold Cup I won last year for scoring 2 centuries in our final cricket game. He would have picked me first for his team today, and together we would have beaten the other team. Jasleen chooses a few other boys for her team as well, so at least I'm not alone. Dylan will be surprised when he sees how well I play. I predict he will regret not picking me first. It's time to warm up, so I grab one of the bats and give a good hard swing. Baseball bats are quite different from cricket bats, and I want to get a feel for it before the game begins. The next thing I know, Coach Victorine is screaming his head off at me. What have I done now? All right, let's see. I think we have time to read one more chapter. Chapter 20. Joe. Coach Victorine reminds me of a penguin. He has a long nose like a beak, and when he walks, he waddles. Line up, ladies and germs, he tells us. I don't like Mr. Victorine. I played Little League for 1 season when I was 7, but I wasn't any good at it. Even with my earplugs in, all that yelling was too much for me. Plus, I'm pretty uncoordinated. As soon as the coach figured out I could hit or throw or catch a ball, I spent the rest of the season sitting on the bench eating sunflower seeds. I didn't mind. I like sunflower seeds. I don't like playing baseball, but I like to watch it on TV. My dad is a Phillies fan, but I'm into the Boston Red Sox. They're epic. In gym class, instead of baseball, we play slow pitch softball. Dylan and Jasmine Arnando are the best hitters, but Amy Yamaguchi has got mad skills too. Emily Mooney isn't bad either, which is surprising because she's white as a marshmallow and so skinny her arms look like toothpicks. Jasleen picks first. I want Amy, she says. Amy Yamaguchi runs over and starts hugging her. This is baseball, girls, squawks Coach Victorine, not a slumber party. Ravi is pointing to himself, trying to get Dylan to pick him, but Jasmine picks Ravi instead. He is so shocked he looks like he's about to pass out. Jasleen probably chose him because she feels sorry for him. Girls do junk like that. Dylan and Jasleen go back and forth picking teams until finally Henry Futterman and I are the only ones left. Henry is as uncoordinated as I am. Plus, he plays the violin. So his mom wrote a note to Coach Victorine saying Henry's not allowed to climb a rope or catch a ball or anything else that might hurt his fingers. I'll take footsie, says Jasleen, pointing at Henry. So I end up in the last place on earth I want to be. Dylan's not too happy about it either. If we lose because of you, you're going to be sorry, Pud, he tells me. We start tossing the ball around a little to warm up, and all of a sudden, Coach Victorine starts yelling at Ravi. No rec specs, no ball, no exceptions. Excuse me? Says Ravi. I don't understand. You can't wear your glasses when you play ball, kid. It's a lawsuit waiting to happen. In India, I always wore my glasses when we played cricket, Ravi says. Well, in case you haven't noticed, this is New Jersey, kid. You need to go to the eye doctor and get yourself a pair of rec specs like those. He points at Henry, who wears a pair of prescription goggles instead of his regular glasses. Can you see without those things? Coach Victorine asks Ravi. Not very well, he says, pushing his glasses up with his thumb. Take your pick, kid. Sit on the bench or play without your glasses, says Coach. It's up to you. Ravi takes off his glasses and puts them in his pocket. I'll play, he says. I remember when I was in 3rd grade, when I first got my glasses, we were doing some sort of gymnastics thing in PE, and you had to take off your shoes. And I took off my shoes and I put my glasses inside of my shoes. And guess what happened when PE class was over? I forgot my glasses were in my shoes and I broke them. So I've been breaking glasses and everything like that since I was 8 years old. So, but it happens. All right. Our team is up first. We do okay for a while, but then the bases are loaded. I strike out and Dylan gets ticked off. Way to blow it, Pud, he says, grabbing his glove off the bench and stomping off to the pitcher's mound. Dylan Samarine does not like to lose. Amy leads off for the other team and she gets a hit. Emily and Jasleen get hits too. So Ravi comes up with the bases loaded. He's squinting pretty hard as he steps up to the plate. And I notice he's holding his bat funny, down low like a golf club. He swings and misses twice, but on the third pitch, he brings his bat up, catches a piece of the ball, and sends it foul. Good cut, shouts Coach Victorine. Jasleen and the rest of her team go nuts, jumping up and down and screaming for Ravi to do it again. Even from far away, I can tell Dylan is up to something. When he turns his head to the side, I see that gleam in his eye. In slow pitch, the ball is supposed to come up at the batter, nice and high, arc. But Dylan winds up and pitches a fastball right at Ravi's head. Duck! I yell. But it's too late. Oh no. All right. We're going to see what happens to Ravi after that. Maybe I'll read over the weekend too so we can get, find out in anticipation. And my dogs need to go outside. So you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Enjoy this day with family. I hope you get everything that you want. And just remember that we love you at O'Neill. We want you to keep learning. And we'll see you soon. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Be safe over winter break. Be safe with your families. And I hope you have a very merry day.